Security or lack of it is an issue tonight for residents at downtown public housing property.
IMPD says it's trying to be more proactive, but we talked with a mom who's living at Lugar Tower. She talked with Jenna Webster today, and she told her enough is enough after someone shot at her daughter and also her daughter-in-law.
I heard the gunshots in my apartment. It was 5 shots.
From up on the 6th floor of Lugar Tower.
I didn't know, where it came from.
Angela Jones-Russ said no idea gunshots she heard were directed toward her daughter and daughter-in-law.
And they were just parked right outside?
Yes.
It happened Friday night around 8 o'clock.
It was very, very scary because she drove them to the hospital.
We're still trying to get some details on that. There appeared to be a disturbance that preceded this. We don't know if the victims were involved in that disturbance or not, but the investigation ongoing.
Jones-Russ says the two women are okay, but are shaken up.
They're scared to come over here. I'm scared to leave out of my apartment. It's not a good feeling.
It's the same feeling for other residents who say for months now they don't want to leave their apartment and go downstairs after 4 p.m., claiming they've seen violence in the apartment complex and describing it as a drug turf war. One showed us the state of their laundry room. Dirt, trash, liquor bottles. The same is in the stairwell. They sent us pictures of people sleeping in the hallway who don't live in Lugar Tower. One woman says she had to tape a pipe in her closet to stop leaking. Jones-Russ says her ceiling continuously leaks.
They say they're going to fix it. Then they do a temporary fix, and then it starts back again.
IMPD responded to the complex 883 times from 2023 to mid-June 2025, according to court documents. Calls for trespassing, robberies, narcotics investigations, and shots fired.
Back in September, I talked to another woman living here who wanted to see some sort of partnership with IMPD where either officers are driving through the property more or sitting outside doing patrols. Today, IMPD tells me they're doing just that.
Over the past several weeks, we've conducted over 100 direct patrols at this location alone. We've had more runs, proactive runs, at this location than we have in anywhere in downtown Indianapolis.
Commander Shane Foley says it's in response to the Indianapolis Housing Agency removing 24/7 security. Residents are suing to get security back.
Be a step in the right direction.
But for Jones-Russ, it's not enough.
Is there a solution to make this building livable for people?
Tear it down and rebuild it.
The shooting, she says, is her final straw. In Indianapolis, Jenna Webster, 13 News.
During her coverage today, Jenna reached out to the Indianapolis Housing Authority multiple times. They have yet to respond. Now, that agency previously wrote in court documents it did not have the money to pay for the security company, and therefore the company terminated the agreement. A trial for this case is now scheduled for November over the issue of 24/7 security.
A Marion County judge will sentence a man next month for his role in a deadly drive-by shooting. 19-year-old Tyler Gibson will receive 35 years in prison after taking a plea deal today on a charge of conspiracy to commit murder. 25-year-old Adam Hart died in the shooting at a house near 21st Street and Mithofer Road. Court documents stated police found more than 30 bullet holes in the house and 31 shell casings on the street. Investigators also found Hart was not the intended target.
Tonight, police are searching for a daycare worker months after a child got hold of THC gummies when at an Indianapolis daycare.
Our Ashton Hackman breaks down the charges just now filed and shares the message from the girl's aunt.
This is the at-home drug test that prompted the mother of a 3-year-old girl to go to police. Family shared the photo with us. It shows a positive result for THC. Court documents show the mom purchased the test on November 12th after her daughter came home feeling weird after daycare at Tots R Us on the east side. The girl reportedly told mom she ate a gummy that made her feel weird. Mom took the girl to the hospital where this clinical drug test confirmed her suspicions. A positive reading for cannabinoids.
It's very alarming and it's very scary.
That's the girl's aunt, who didn't want us to share her name or face. She said her niece had been going to Tots R Us for about a year without any issues until November.
These are people that you are supposed to trust with your children, but how can you? And this type of neglect happens.
Now, months later, prosecutors have charged 38-year-old Saidia Bell with felony neglect of a dependent and misdemeanor reckless supervision by a child care provider. Court documents say police tried to interview Bell in December, but she did not complete an interview at that time. Police also didn't hear from the owner because the phone line was disconnected. Bell reportedly told a DCS worker she had marijuana gummies in her pocket, but claimed the child never had access to them. I tried calling Tots R Us to speak to the owner, but like police,
your call cannot be completed as the called party is temporarily unavailable.
I ran into a disconnected phone line. I wasn't able to talk to anyone in person at the daycare either.
At last check, Bell had an active warrant in Hancock County for the charges and has yet to be arrested. In Indianapolis, Ashton Hackman, 13 News.
Tots R Us has 7 health and safety violations on file with the state. A spokesperson for the Family and Social Services Administration did not immediately respond to our requests for comment.
Indiana Representative Jim Baird and his wife now recovering in the hospital tonight after a car crash. Baird's son, Bo, posted on social media saying that his dad's car was hit while driving to Washington, D.C. last night. He went on to say that police now are working to find the driver behind this hit and run. Baird is a Republican who represents Indiana's 4th Congressional District. He's an 80-year-old Army vet who lost an arm during the Vietnam War. A spokesperson for Baird says he's expected to make a full recovery after what President Trump called, quote, a bad crash. However, Bo Baird wrote, quote, anyone who knows my dad knows his determination runs deep. And he's already joking about getting back to the House floor to vote, especially with margins this tight.
Okay, in the Weather Center this afternoon with Angela, here's a look outside as we prepare for a sunset. And we actually did see some peaks of sunshine.
We did, and it is warm for this time of year. And if you look there on the horizon, that's where we kind of have that break in the cloud deck across the southwestern part of the state. So this camera's looking south.
Wonderful. South of downtown. Okay. So what can we expect? We know we're in the middle of a warm up right now.
Yes, and the middle of a warm up that will take us into the 60s come Thursday and Friday.
Bring it on.
Yes, we've got some very spring-like weather in winter headed our way, and it felt like it today again. Despite the clouds and the drizzle and the mist, temperatures did manage the upper 40s and low 50s for most of us. We're at 54 in Bainbridge right now, 48 degrees Connorsville, 53 Greensburg, and 49 at the Country Club of Indianapolis. Temperatures this evening will stay in the upper 40s and low 50s if you're coming downtown to root on our Pacers, taking on the Cavs. That is a 7 o'clock tip-off this evening at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Still may run into some wet pavement simply because we had the drizzle off and on most of the day. Low clouds early tomorrow, maybe some patchy fog. Don't think it will slow us down tomorrow morning. Middle and upper 30s, so a bit cooler than what we had out the door this morning, but we'll be warm again tomorrow afternoon. Morning clouds, afternoon sunshine. High temperatures tomorrow in the low 50s. Couple of days in the 60s, but rain chances ramp up later this week. I'll have a look ahead in a few minutes.
All right, Angela, thanks. We'll check back. In the meantime, let's go to the State House. Criminals sentenced to death in Indiana may now get a choice about how they're executed. There are 2 bills that were filed this session, and they propose using a firing squad.
One of those bills was heard in committee today. 13 News State House reporter Emily Longnecker has the story.
Well, the committee that heard one of those bills today didn't vote yet to move it forward in the process. That could still happen. The bill's author, Republican State Senator Mike Young, tells me that some changes were suggested to this bill in committee, and he plans to make those changes first. As it stands right now, executions in Indiana are carried out through lethal injection. The last one took place last October. That's when the state executed Roy Lee Ward, who was convicted and sentenced to death for raping and murdering a 15-year-old girl. But state officials, including Governor Braun, have acknowledged the limited supply of the drugs used in lethal injections, in part because of the drug's cost and short shelf life.
And so our backup is, if they choose to do it, if they can't get the chemical, is by a firing squad.
Young's bill, Senate Bill 11, proposes using a firing squad as another option and giving the person who's set to be executed a choice on how they'd like to die. Right now, 5 states use firing squads. What still needs to be worked out in Young's bill is how the firing squad would work, how many people would be on it, and whether some of the guns would fire blanks.
We're not going to tie their hands to it. We'll say, here are your options.
Well, the first thing you have to ask when you're looking at these bills is, are you serious? This isn't the 1800s. What is Indiana doing thinking about killing prisoners by firing squad?
That was the reaction Robert Dunham said he got from his Lyft driver Monday when Dunham told him he was headed to the Indiana State House to testify about Young's bill. Dunham is the director of the Death Penalty Policy Project and teaches death penalty law. He says an Indiana jury hasn't imposed the death penalty since 2013. Right now, there are 5 prisoners on death row in the state. Dunham also pushed back on the idea that the proposed law gives prisoners a choice.
It's macabre to say to somebody, we're going to kill you, but we're going to let you decide how we're going to do it. That's something from a grade B horror movie.
Clearly, some lawmakers do not agree. There's also a bill in the House that would allow for executions by firing squad or lethal gas. That bill would also give prisoners a choice between the two. That bill has not been scheduled yet, though, for a committee hearing. At the Indiana State House, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
Thank you, Emily. Governor Braun says he'll be closely watching a bill that would allow state police to take over downtown Indianapolis, a portion of it from IMPD. Senator Mike Young wrote the bill. He says it would address the public safety concerns by creating a special district that includes a special prosecutor. That prosecutor appointed by the governor. The city has the opportunity to come up with a deal to work together, but if they're not able to do that, state police would take over all law enforcement duties by the end of the year. Dustin Groves asked the governor whether or not he supports this plan.
You'd hope that you wouldn't need to take that kind of step, but I think there's a fairly large consensus around the state and even many who live within Marion County that something's got to change from the dynamic we've currently got.
IMPD says crime is actually down citywide, including a 20% drop last year in criminal homicides. You can see much more of Dustin's conversation with the governor on a new episode of Crossroad Politics Sunday morning. It airs on WTHR Plus.